Hi guys, so this is my first video, and this time I'm going to be making a double starburst, except I'm going to be making this on one loom because I don't think that many people have two looms, so I think it would be easier for them to make it on one loom. So first we're going to start with the double starburst. So first we're going to get our supplies ready. We're going to get all these bands, a hook, and a C-clip. So first we're going to start the double starburst. First we take two bands that you want for your perimeter to be, and you just go from here to here. And then you go from here to here. Then you just go along the perimeter, except you don't go over here. You go from here to here instead. Okay, you can stop. As I'm doing this, remember that you have to take double bands and not just single, because it makes it look more sturdy, because when you do only singles, it adds a weird loop, so it doesn't make it look as great. So I'm at my very last pieces, and remember that you don't go over here, but you have to go to the center pin. Okay, so now we're ready to start placing the X's. So you take two bands, and you put them, you just let them hang loose over here like that. And then you just alternate the colors that you have until you get to this point over here. But remember, before you place the bands, push down the perimeter bands. So be careful when you're placing these bands, because they might fall off and you might have one thinner X than you may have expected to have. So now that you've reached the end of this, you don't put another set of perimeter bands because it's only a double starburst. Because if you put another perimeter, then it would make like a quadruple cross or something. Now we're ready to start placing the starbursts. So first you go from this the bottom pin up, and then you actually go from here, from the center pin to this pin instead of going from here to here. And then you just go around, and don't redo this pin, just go around that pin until it makes like a firework shape. Then after that you need to cap your starburst, so double a band like this, and then put it in the center. Then you place starburst until the very end of the loom. Wait. Come on. So now I'm going to show you again how to do the starburst. Place from here to here. From here to here. And from here to... Oops. From here to here. From here to here. And all the way around, and then cap your starburst by doubling the band. Just like this. So you twist into figure 8, and then you just fold it back on itself, and there. And be sure to be using different colors, since it might seem monotonous just to use the same color for the whole bracelet. So now we're ready to start hooking the starburst, so we can turn our loom around, and before we start hooking, we place a capping band on this pin right over here. Okay, so now we can start hooking. So first we need to pull out our X's just to make sure that they don't interfere with the bands that we're going to be hooking. So first we're going to hook the starbursts. For people who know how to hook the starburst, they can just skip this part, but for some people who don't know how to make the starburst, so you go underneath the capping band and pull the colored band that leads to the starburst and hook it to the center pin. Then you go underneath the capping band in the starburst, and you grab the band on top and you push it to where it goes. Then you just keep going all around the starburst. until you reach the end. And if you grab 2 bands by mistake, it's okay. So we have to hook all the Starburst to the end of the loom, and then we start hooking the perimeter bands. So you go from here to here, and sometimes they can get stuck, so you just have to wiggle them out. Then just keep hooking the Starburst all the way to the end of the loom. So now we're going to be hooking our last Starburst, and so we just go underneath the capping band and just hook all the way around, except don't go on this one, to go to the one going diagonal. Okay, so now that we're done hooking our Starbursts, we can hook the perimeter bands. So first we have to pull over here so that we can pull on the X so we can hook the bands. We hook one at a time because it's a double band. It's double bands, but you can also hook both of them. So just keep pulling on the X band until you're done working on that peg. So when you hook, you have to make sure that the X bands are not blocking the path. So just pull them out of the way and hook it over until you're still done working on the peg. So as you're pulling the bands out of the way, I think that it would be easier for you to just pull them back. And what's hilarious is that they make a weird sound like a guitar when you string them like that. So I decided to do this with a single loom because at first I only had 1 loom, and when I got my second loom I thought that I could make a video on how to do it with 1 loom because most people only have 1 loom and they can't make like the double Starburst with only 1 loom, so it would be easier to just do it on 1 loom if there was a way. So we're hooking our last band to go on this side, and then we're going to just start the other side. You pretty much do it the same way, except it's much easier because there are no X bands. Remember guys, this is much easier because you don't have to just pull these side bands because there are no side bands. Just go underneath the bands from the Starburst and pick up your frame bands and hook them over. Now we're hooking our last band, and then we have to close our Starburst. So take a band and just dig it over and pull it through the hole. So you stick your hook in the hole with the bands and just pull the band through like that. And then you just bring it over like a knot. And then you can either use your hook to pull it off or your hands. So I'm going to use my hook and my hands and just pull it off the way. So now that we're done with the bracelet, it should look like this. And so now we can start connecting it. So here's what the bracelet should look like when you're done hooking. So before we start making the other Starburst, just pull out the bands for the X so that they'll be clearly visible. Okay, now we can start making the other Starburst. So take a double band and from here to here and from here to here. And then just keep going all the way, and like last time, you go from here to here instead of going all the way. So now that we've finished placing the perimeter bands, we can start placing the X's on the loom. So first, since we started hooking and when we placed the bands, it started from this way up, we need to keep the tail down. And for making the X, we can't put like the bands in their proper order. We have to like cross them over. So, like I'm using black and yellow, take your first two bands and put them over here, and your second two bands and place them over here, so it makes like a cross. And then instead of putting the, like my black bands, instead of putting them over here, you have to skip one and go here and cross like that. This might really put some tension on the loom, but it's okay because when you're done hooking it, it won't matter. Some of the bands, they could be falling off, just you need to just push them down. And when you actually start hooking, when you start hooking the starburst, just remember to just keep them out of the way of your starbursts. And when you place your starbursts, then they won't have to get in the way. So we're going to start placing our starbursts. You know how to place a starburst from this starburst, but just to refresh your memory, from here to here, from here to here. Oh, sorry. And from here to here, from here to here, here to here, and up. And then you cap it. You just place your starburst to the end of the loom and place a capping band right on the center pin. Okay, so before we start hooking, we of course have to place the capping band right over here in the center pin, if you hadn't already done it. Then you just start hooking the starburst. Just to refresh your memory, you just go in order from which bands are on the top. So for me, right here, the band, I just grab the band at the top, and bring it over to the side where it belongs. And then you just keep going along where the bands should go, and all the way around. Hook all your other starburst, and then hook the frame. Keep in mind that when you hook the perimeter, go underneath the X bands. So I got a question about the bracelet. Once you make it, are you going to give it to someone? Are you going to sell it? If you are going to sell it, then how much are you going to ask for it? Send your answer in the box below. Okay, so now we're ready to hook the bands for the perimeter. So we're going to start with the band on top, which leads to the left side, and hook it. And you don't have to worry about any of the X bands on this side, because there are no X bands on this side. And if it goes a little crazy like this, then just have to lever out the bands. And when when one falls on top of the other, you can just pick it out. And another reason why for the frame I would do the doubled bands instead of like doubling the bands is because when you double the bands, then it'll like put a lot of tension on bands, and there's a high possibility that either your hook will snap or the bands will snap. So now we hook the other side, and we have to be very careful since the X bands are over here. So we have to go very carefully underneath the X bands and grab only the 2 bands that are for the perimeter. And if you grab 3, just put it back on the peg. Okay, so now that we're done, we have to close it off like we did over here and create the little tail. So you dig your hook into the hole, into the peg, and then stick it outside all the rubber bands and slip a rubber band onto it. Bring it through, and bring the bottom one over and tighten it. And then you just here is our bracelet. It sort of looks a little different from the actual double cross starburst, but it is double crossed and it is a double starburst. So now we're gonna close it with a C-clip, and so we just take the C-clip and we put it on the sides like that, and then we're gonna have to make an extension. So the way you make an extension is you just take your bands and you put them over like this, and for like a kid-size wrist, you would put 4 and then add the capping band and hook it. And if you put your loom backwards, it's totally okay. You can just go the other way around. Grab it from the other side. And then put this on your hook and remove it from the loom. And then finally attach it with the C-clip. By taking it off the hook. Then you just do the same for the other side. When we finish looping all the bands, then we can just wear the bracelet. And this is a double-crossed double starburst. So this is the double-crossed double starburst. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.